Hello, my name is Nat, and welcome to episode 2 of Am I a Mess? A Diary to My Future Self. And it's freezing today. It's March the 4th, so we're out of February. I thought it was going to get a bit warmer, a bit milder. Maybe it has, the sun's been out a bit more, but it's freezing. It's 6 degrees right now in the house. So, you know, for future me, it's a bit of a crisis going on at the moment with the cost of bills and heating and things. So you're trying to put off putting the heating on. To be honest, I have just put it on, probably for like half an hour, just to warm things up a bit, hopefully. But yeah, I've been putting off making this a little bit. It's hard to know what you're going to talk about, and you want it to be kind of not rubbish, valuable in some way, at least to me, and like informative to me as well, like about what life is like at the moment. So yesterday we popped out to the shop, and as we pulled into the drive, had a bit of an embarrassing moment. I was putting my seatbelt behind me, like with one hand. So yeah, and the neighbour had just arrived home, who we don't know. We haven't really spoken to them because we've only lived in this house, a couple of, I don't know, 6 months or so, a bit over. And she thought I was waving at her, so she gave me a smiley wave, but I was just putting my seatbelt behind me, and then I noticed, and she realised as well, and she quickly ran in the house, and I was like, oh no. Oh yeah, and I got a McDonald's on the way home. I'm sure they like own the world by now in the future, but I had a Big Mac, which is usually quite a safe bet. I think the Big Mac's quite popular. Quite a lot of people like it, but yeah, like I say, it's usually a safe bet. But I went for the Grand Big Mac because that's what it was on the menu, and it was rubbish. I'm sure other ones are better. Maybe I got a bad one, but the middle bun was just absolutely covered in sauce and onions, like way too much, and it just fell apart. And I couldn't eat it. I couldn't eat the middle bit. It was just like a sopping, creamy met. I can't say that. Um, it was just too soggy, and it was gross. So it stayed in the box. But the rest, it was fine. But yeah, I mean, just sort that out. Do we need the middle bun? I don't know what the purpose of the middle bun is, to be honest. I'm sure this has been spoken about by other people, but it's just a bit pointless, to be honest. I assume it's for the ratio. That's what I was thinking. It's for the meat to bun ratio, because it's got two big patties. But yeah, it was just too much, and it made it all soggy and fall apart. So that was a bit of a downer on my day. Anyway, I've been a bit under the weather recently. I've got a cold and a cough, so I'm gonna cut out any coughing fits I have because I'm kind of spluttering all over the place at the moment. But yeah, I mean, I've been a bit under the weather, and my illness has been a bit difficult recently, which is what kind of the main point of this episode is to kind of get out of the way talking about my chronic illness, which is kind of a big part of my life, especially at the moment. Over the last 2 years, it's been quite like controlling of things going on. So I'm going to go into my illness a little bit, and I don't know, hopefully not be really like gloomy and crap. I want it to be kind of fun and still, and informative. But I might talk a bit about how it impacts me a little bit, because it does impact me a lot. But again, I don't want this whole thing to just be me moaning the whole time. And I'll just try and find some kind of fun things to do with it. And like I say, I'll cut out any coughing and stuff, hopefully. So I have Crohn's disease, which is an IBD, which is inflammatory bowel disease. Um, I've popped up the NHS website here, which I hope the NHS is still around. Crohn's disease is a lifelong condition where parts of the digestive system become inflamed. It's one type of a condition called an inflammatory bowel disease. That's what I just said. So basically, your insides, your organs, are inflamed and not happy and unwell, and it affects you in a bunch of ways. Mainly to do with like toilet problems, but also fatigue and tiredness being a massive one. Not being able to maintain your weight, lots of weight loss, and just like general unwell feeling. And they can be, depending on who you are, they can be constant symptoms, or they can come and go. For me at the moment, it's kind of like a constant moderate thing. I am on a treatment right now, which was working well and now isn't working so well. So that's kind of frustrating, and it is frustrating to be on this journey of trying to find a treatment that works, especially when some of them don't. Obviously, they're trying their best to find something that works for me, but eventually, you kind of run out of options of, treatments. Basically, they're biologic treatments, which is like having an infusion or injections of drugs that help manage your inflammation. Um, and these can have side effects as well. But you only really try. I mean, I'm only going off what I've been told, but you only really try a handful until if they're not working, they're not working, and you have to move on to something else. The scrap iron people are outside. I don't know if you can hear that. It's kind of crazy. It's like if it's a bit. I've always thought it feels a bit like post-apocalyptic, where the scrap iron people are going around like kind of screaming down out a megaphone out the window of the car, trying to collect scrap metal. Um, yeah. So hopefully, I kind of hope you heard that because it's an interesting thing that happens around here. My chronic illness, the way it's currently affecting me, is it makes it difficult to work. It makes it difficult to go out, see my friends, if I want to do anything. Um, yeah, it gets in the way of kind of all parts of life, which is frustrating. I mean, to say the least. And also not just out of frustration, but like physically impedes your ability to do certain things. If you're having kind of a Crohn's attack or whatever you'd call it, like a flare up, and you're forced to like be ill or like go to the bathroom loads or whatever, or you can't get up at all because you're too tired. You physically can't work, or I don't know, go to school or college or uni or whatever part of life you're in. It really does get in the way of everything, which I mean that I found that's the most frustrating thing about it is not I mean everyone can speak for themselves. I'm just speaking for myself, but the symptoms are horrible. They are horrible, and they are um a bit harrowing sometimes, but like it's more honestly the annoyance, the constant annoyance of them getting in the way of things you want to do, to just like have a function in life or like have any kind of enjoyment. Sounds really bleak, but it's just like I don't know. It can get in the way of things you want to do, things other people want to do with you. That's another thing. Is like people. I'm very lucky to have an understanding, support system of friends and family and whatnot. But like start to let people down sometimes when you've got a chronic illness, and you can feel a bit like a letdown. And like I say, hopefully people don't make you feel this way, because you're not. But yeah, it can be disheartening at times to feel like you're letting people down because you physically can't do things, or because you're too tired, or because you're having a flare up and you're literally stuck being ill. And then something that I've thought about a lot with my Crohn's is kind of the age that I'm at. It gets in the way of a time of your life where you want to be doing things like kind of fun things or things for yourself, out and being more outgoing. And I'm not a massively outgoing person, but there's room for everyone to try and do more. And it's frustrating when you're trying to do more and be more outgoing, but you can't because of this condition. So that's a little bit about how it affects me. And yeah, I thought it'd be a cool little exercise to look up celebrities that suffer with or are living with Crohn's disease currently. I know of a couple off the top of my head, but I just thought this is like a nice little segment to include because, yeah, I mean, one of the biggest things about an illness like this is you feel very alone. I'm going somewhere with this, not a tangent. But you do feel quite like fed up, and you feel like no one understands what you're going through. Especially those if the people around you aren't chronically ill, you get a bit impostery, like a bit like, oh, is it really as bad as I feel like it is? And you're worried people don't believe you. But to hear that other people go through the same thing makes you feel a bit better. Like it's not like it solves it, but just knowing that you're not the only one. I think it's the same with any hardship or like difficulty in life. Is knowing you're not the only one going through it makes it easier to cope, I guess, in some way. You're not alone. You're not like singled out by life. It's not like that. It's nothing against you. It's just the way things are. So I've looked up a list here. I'm on everydayhealth.com. Apparently this article's been fact checked, so that's good. So it's not all rubbish. But yeah, I'm going to go through a couple of these, and I think I might know one or two additional ones off the top of my head, but I'm going to let the article speak for itself. Well, actually, no, I'm going to speak for the article because it can't talk. Number 1 on the list is Pete Davidson, comedian, and heartthrob, I'd say, probably. I think a lot of people like Pete Davidson. He has Crohn's disease, same as me. I'm just going to read the article. The Saturday Night Live cast member has been open about his struggles with Crohn's disease since being diagnosed at the age of 17. That's kind of similar to me. I, through my teenage years, I thought I just had IBS because of the way it was affecting me, and I just thought I was a bit frustrating, but I could get it sorted out. But yeah, I think I got diagnosed similarly around that, between my late teenage years and my early adulthood. I was actually diagnosed with Crohn's. Yeah, Davidson notably also has inflammation around his eyes, which might be a side effect of his Crohn's. That's like me. I've got quite there's a darkness under my. That sounds so I've got I've got eye bags and I've got kind of dark eyes, and I think it is because of the Crohn's disease. I don't know what, I could look it up, but I don't know why it affects you in that way, but it does. You'll see other people like that. But people don't seem to mind. Davidson has been candid about his struggles with the disease, even mentioning it in his film The King of Staten Island. Yeah, I remember there's a little scene with Bill Burr. You can look it up if you just type in King of Staten Island. And it's in the trailer, I'm pretty sure, for that film. But he has a little funny line about his Crohn's disease in that, which is good, it's good to represent it. Kathleen Baker. So this is number 2 now of celebrities living with Crohn's disease. Kathleen Baker, Olympic swimmer. Now, I don't know all of these people, but I'm just reading their little excerpts. Okay, so Kathleen Baker, diagnosed at 12 years old and was already a champion, apparently, of swimming. Wow. Baker had to battle severe stomach cramps and weight loss and nausea, yeah. But she made it through all, eventually earning the silver medal in the 100-meter backstroke at the Rio 2016 Olympic Games. Wowee. I mean, it is good. It's good for me to see these things as well, because you can feel like you're not amounting to anything when you're unwell. But, I mean, if an Olympic swimmer, can do their thing whilst being ill, I mean, there's hope for all of us, I suppose. Baker has advocated for finding the best doctor to treat your symptoms and finding doctors who support your goals. Yeah. I found doctors who weren't going to just be like, you're Kathleen with Crohn's disease. I need to be Kathleen the swimmer with Crohn's disease. Okay, that's an interesting quote. Okay, here's one. Well, I mean, they're all one, but this is a very well-known one in my demographic, I suppose, or people on the internet, which is mrbeast, the YouTuber, who I knew had Crohn's disease. Apparently, Jimmy Donaldson, which is his real name, has been open about his struggles with Crohn's disease on his YouTube channel, which I haven't actually seen. Maybe I should look at that. Donaldson had spoken about how diet regulates his symptoms, causing him to lose 30 pounds at one point in his life, and how it even affects going out with his friends. I mean, yeah, it does affect going out with your friends, or it can do. I relate to that. He says, sometimes I have to bring my own PB&J, which I believe is peanut butter and jelly, when we're eating out at fast food and things like that, just because I don't want to be in stomach pain. Yeah, fair enough. Okay. Donaldson has spoken about his experience using the immunosuppressive drug Remicade or infliximab to help treat his symptoms. I can't remember if I'm on this now or if it was my first one I tried, infliximab. I was on a type of infliximab, which didn't work, and I'm now on a different mab, which is just the name of the drug, which is kind of working, but I need to ask them about the dosages because it's been not working too well recently. That's interesting because that's a very common one for people to try. So moving on, Perfume Genius singer. I'm not quite sure who this person is, but singer Mike Hadreas, who goes by the stage name Perfume Genius, has spoken about his battle with Crohn's for a decade, conveying the heavy toll of the symptoms have on him. While others were dealing with COVID-19, Hedreas told SF Weekly that his Crohn's disease flared up during the pandemic, which stopped the creative growth he was experiencing that led to his fifth album, Set My Heart on Fire, immediately. I'm not familiar with that, but it's interesting that he struggled during the pandemic because I think I had that as well. I'm sure a lot of us did. Um, Audra McDonald is the next one, Broadway star. Oh, really? The six-time Tony Award-winning actress and singer has taken to Twitter over the years to talk about Crohn's disease. In November 2020, McDonald, along with the other Broadway stars who suffer from inflammatory bowel diseases, performed at the virtual benefit concert for the Greater New York chapter of Crohn's and Colitis Foundation's The Great Gatsby, which was held virtually due to the pandemic. Sorry, that was a massive mouthful. That's awesome, though. I had no idea that she had Crohn's disease. Mike McCready. Oh, okay. This is the Pearl Jam guitarist, one of the Pearl Jam guitarists. The lead guitarist of Pearl Jam has tirelessly advocated for Crohn's disease. McCready has worked with the Northwest chapter of Crohn's and Colitis Foundation to promote awareness, share his story, and raise funds to find a cure for the disease. Yeah, that's another big thing with Crohn's disease is this kind of like the search for a cure. I didn't mention earlier, but there's no cure for Crohn's disease. It's just there's treatments to help manage the symptoms and the inflammation, but there is no cure. And sometimes you can have surgery, which can kind of put you in remission, but like I say, there's no cure. McCready has raised hundreds of thousands of dollars for the Crohn's and Colitis Foundation over the many years he has been the national spokesperson for the foundation. Oh, okay. I had no idea. That's a good one, that is, because I like a bit of Pearl Jam. Maybe that'll influence the music segment of this one. David Garrard, or Garrard, NFL quarterback. There we go. Another sports person. David Garrard, the former quarterback of the NFL's Jacksonville Jaguars, had a foot of his intestine removed because of Crohn's disease. In 2004, when he began having stomach pains after meals, Garrard told the New York Times that he believed he just had a stomach bug and waited 3 months to seek help. Yeah, a lot of it. I think that's the thing is with these things is you delay them quite a lot because you think it's just something minor. And I suppose learning more about these different conditions, you're more likely to get help or like test or something. To battle the disease, he opted for surgery and a maintenance drug. Yeah, some people do it in combination. That's awesome, though. I mean, being a like I say, being able to be like a successful sports person alongside this, that's crazy to me. Because like some days I feel like I can't get out of bed, so it's pretty amazing. Another one I know of. This isn't on the list. I've not gone through everyone because I don't want it to go on and on. But Dynamo, who is the UK magician. He's had some TV shows and stuff. He's got Crohn's disease, and I know it's affected him in many ways. I remember he was on TV, and there was quite a lot of comments about his appearance because he looked unwell or he'd gained weight or something. I think it's something to do with the medication he was on. But yeah, he's another famous person with Crohn's disease. So that's kind of interesting. It's nice for me to see, and hopefully it's good for anyone else to see. But yeah, it's interesting to see celebrities who we often see as not having many problems, or knowing that some of them have to deal with these kinds of illnesses. Yeah, that's good to know. So to talk a little bit more about kind of my journey with the illness, Crohn's disease, I'll just like hopefully do a brief timeline of where I've been and then where I'm at now, just to kind of log it here, and then in the future, we'll see where I am there if I'm hopefully faring a bit better. So as I mentioned, I wasn't aware I had Crohn's disease while I was a teenager until I was diagnosed. I think between 16 and 18 I was diagnosed. I'm quite sure. You have to take a bunch of blood tests and like speak to the doctor loads of hospital appointments, and then you often have to have some sort of endoscopy or colonoscopy, which if you know, but you basically have like a tiny camera shoved up you and looked around your insides, which is honestly very unpleasant. It's horrible. And I remember I had to have one not too long ago to just like check on, between treatments you have to check how things are going inside your body and like in your gut. And they're always on the forms. It's always like it shouldn't be painful, right? And they always say it's not painful. You might have some minor discomfort. I'm pretty sure that's the exact words they used on my form. I'm sorry, but it actually does hurt, and it might be me. It might just be my personal experience. But the instrument that it's like the thin, tiny camera tube that's going around your inside. Sorry, bit graphic. It kind of also like it expels air to inflate your tubes so it can like navigate properly while it's looking around and taking photographs. And that's the bit that hurts, to be quite honest. It's not the tube itself. It's just the air. It feels so weird, and it does hurt. I mean, it hurt when I've got quite a decent pain tolerance, but yeah, I mean they're lying. Maybe it doesn't hurt for everyone else. So I had one of those done when I was a bit younger, late teens, and yeah, the results come back and they're like, okay, you do have Crohn's disease or colitis, or and then it's a bit like, okay, what do I do now? And I remember being in the hospital with my mum, and when we knew actually what it was, she seemed like quite down about it, but I had no idea what that meant. Um, I did a bit of reading about chronic illnesses. I was like, oh, okay, so this is something that I'm stuck with, So it's about managing it. But it's weird. You're very much in the dark, and you just learn as you go. Each appointment, each chat with your doctor, you just learn a bit more. And it's such a process. It's like years of and it's, to be honest, it's them learning about you as well, because they don't know exactly how it's affecting your body until they learn about it. So the first thing they kind of tell you, or told me, is to keep an eye on your diet, have a low fiber diet, because apparently if you've got this kind of issue, fiber is not good for your insides. So I kind of tried to drop the fiber in my diet. And then you try, an initial treatment. They try a biologic usually. So I remember trying my first biologic, and it worked a treat. I was basically cured when I first started taking it, and it was amazing. I was going to uni at the time. Actually, skipping a bit, priorly dropped out of my first go at uni because I was too unwell. It was horrendous, to be honest. Just like constantly being unwell, like all day, every day, trying to just sleep it off, and it was horrible. So I had to drop out because I was too unwell. But then I wanted to go back to uni to study music because that was my passion, and yeah, I was on this new treatment, so I could I could go to uni, I could go to lectures, I could go out and kind of have fun, drink and stuff, right? Which is the part of the uni experience which you want. And I felt great being on this treatment. So I just to say a bit about what that is, you every 8 weeks you just go into the hospital and you sit in a chair and you have an infusion. So kind of like just a tiny tube and then a needle in your forearm that just kind of like drips. It's a drip, just like drips a drug. And you sit there for like 2 hours while your body takes it in, and then you're good for 8 weeks. Basically, that's the idea anyway. So I was having this 8 weekly treatment, and I was enjoying myself. And then after several months of being on this treatment, I would get to the 6-7 week mark of the treatment. So it's every 8 weeks, and I would start to feel a bit unwell again, and I wasn't really sure what this meant. Whether it doesn't mean it's not working, or is it just something I'm eating? It's very hard to track, what's going on. So basically, I spoke to the specialist nurses and at the clinic, and they were like, okay, we'll take a look at your blood samples and let you know what we can do. And it's basically, they might up the dosage. So it's like the strength of the drug is kind of dropping off towards the end of the 8 weeks. So they can up the dose of the drug, or they can kind of shorten the period between each dose, and so to hopefully keep you in a state of remission from symptoms or just feeling better, right? So I think to begin with, I think they just upped my dose very slightly and tried that out. And I can't remember if it worked or not, but I remember having to go back to them after like a couple of weeks and be like, no, it's still happening. So they reduced the time between my infusions from 8 weeks to 7 weeks, which means that that week where I was having the biggest drop off was being cut off, and I was just having another infusion every 7 weeks instead. And this did help. And I eventually I ended up on a higher dose because it was slipping a little bit again. But unfortunately, um, after just over a year, I think, um, maybe a little longer on this biologic treatment, it stopped working. Nearly completely. I was unwell again, which is so frustrating because you're relying on this. I mean, this drug has been working for so long, and then it just stops, and you're like, back to square one type thing. So go back to the nurses and kind of like, oh, okay, it's not working at all now. And I think I can't remember how old I was when it first stopped working. The first treatment stopped working. I don't know if I was like 20 or 21. Because I know it doesn't sound like I've said a lot, like I haven't covered a long period of time, but it takes a long time for all this to get going. It's weeks and weeks between seeing them. To get on a drug takes you weeks and weeks because you have to kind of build up to it. And then you have to give it, a month or two to see if it works. And then you need to let it like all come out of your system before you try another one. So it takes like weeks and weeks, sometimes months, to try different treatments. Or it did for me at least. And yeah, this racks up to getting through a year, trying each treatment. So I think at this point they'd try me. I think I have to have another oscopy, have a look inside to see how bad the inflammation is. And they let me know, it's like quite moderate, but we need to try and get you on something else so you can live your life. And then I think I go on to another biologic. In between, you take things to this is another thing, is the steroids that they put you on, which are like incredible. Like you take these like steroids that kind of like boost your I don't know what it does. It boosts your insides to like fight off the inflammation or whatever. Just keeps it at bay, and it just like they completely cured me. Like it's kind of frustrating. And these come back later on, in between other drugs, where like I'd have periods of like 2 or 3 months where I'd be on these steroids and feeling on top of the world, incredible. But you just know you can't stay on them because they have long term health effects. So that's really frustrating. Anyway, we get me onto another drug, and I would usually feel some sort of feeling after the first infusion, right? Like some slight improvement. And I know that's not a good thing to base off. Like you should give things time, but a couple of days, feel something, no, like a week, 2 weeks, didn't feel anything, and then into a month, nothing. So I think I ended up having another round of that when it was time, and it wasn't working at all. Like there was no effect on me. I was still really unwell. So this is when they are like, okay, so we've tried you on like the two best ones. So our options are quite slim. There are like other variations of each drug, but my doctor being like, okay, so we've tried you on the two better drugs that are on available, and if both of them don't work, it's very unlikely that the other ones will, because they're not typically as good at dealing with this. So we need to start to think about the possibility of surgery for you, which is, like a usually a quite an effective way of treating these things. And that scared me. I think just the word surgery feels very drastic, and it feels like a last resort, almost like an emergency, right? And it took me so long to be able to think about this and let it sink in and like come to the realization that this might be a good thing for me. Because it did scare me a lot, the idea of having surgery, especially when I learned more about it. So the options of surgery being that, one, you have a portion of your gut removed, hopefully like the inflamed part of your insides removed, and then it's kind of like patched back up, so you've still got a working intestine. Or the other option being that you have to have most or all of your intestine removed, and then you have to live with a stoma, or like a colostomy bag, you might know it as, kind of for the rest of your life, often. And this terrified me. Absolutely no disrespect to people who are living with stomas, but there was something about it that I was just terrified about. And I think it's quite normal to be this worried about kind of a major surgery, but I was very. it was really hard for me to accept the idea of living with a stoma for the rest of my life, considering I was 22, I think, at the time when I was having this conversation. And I was like, I can't do that. Like, I didn't want to do it. I think I thought the maintenance involved with having a stoma or a colostomy bag was not too dissimilar from my current interruption in my life, like having to, like go to the toilet so often. I thought, I'm going to have to empty this bag all the time as well and change it. Is it like the same amount? Obviously, that is kind of a bit naive. The truth is that your insides are healthy if you've got a stoma. So, it's worth it because you're well. It doesn't matter about the what you're having to do day to day to maintain it. But at the time, I just couldn't really get my head around this, and I was like, I really don't want to do it. Are you sure there's nothing else we can try? And they were like, well, it's kind of just not worth it because of you've tried the best ones, like I said. So I took, I think, a couple of months. I think I was back on steroids now, like kind of thinking about it because I thought, okay, they've basically told me this is going to happen. This has got to happen. And I was on and off steroids for quite a while. I think I can't remember exactly, but I think maybe it's because I had COVID or I had this and that, and I think the process was delayed a lot, right? And we're coming up to me being like 23. I'm skipping some details. I can't remember it completely, but yeah, I'm just saying what I can remember. After a long time, like on and off the steroids, like being well, being unwell, being very unwell, like some of my worst moments. And I remember getting onto the topic with my doctor about the surgery, and this time after being unwell for a while, he was like, "Okay, this is what we're doing. Like, this is what we have to do because you're not getting better. You're dependent on the steroids in between, which is not good because of the long-term effects they can have. So, you know, respecting the fact that you don't want to do this, we'd spoken about it before. It kind of you have to do it, right? There's no other option, and you're going to get more and more unwell. So I was like quite upset by this news, and it hit me quite a lot, to be honest. It affected me at work and everything. I coming to grips with it, had a bit of a meltdown. But after a couple of weeks, I guess, of thinking about it and coming to terms with it, I was like, okay, I mean, like at the end of the day, this is going to make my life better. I can do more things, see more people, and that's the main thing. And I won't be ill anymore. So after a while of coming to terms with it, I was like, okay. The worst bit still being, though, that I kind of have to just wait until it's available, not really, and just kind of cope being ill until I can have the surgery, because there's quite a waiting list, and there's people who need it in an emergency sense. But I'm not quite. My doctor's saying I'm in an unfortunate position because I'm not like gonna die immediately or anything, but I'm very unwell, so it's kind of just I have to just wait and be unwell until I'm allowed to have it, which kind of sucks. But I'd come to terms with it. I was like, okay, I've just got to wait out, and I was like, I'm ready to make that change if it's gonna impact my life in a positive way. So before they kickstart this process of like going into surgery or like letting me meet surgeons and ask questions and things, they want to have a look inside my body again to see how bad things are, where the inflammation is, and also have a discussion with the other doctors. And I think possibly like the team of surgeons, I don't know exactly how it works, but it's just like a bigger team of people to get multiple opinions on what I can do, right? Just to make sure that my doctor has made the right decision, and to see if there's any second opinions and things. So I have this flexible sigmoidoscopy, I think this one was called, where they take a look inside, and it was horrible, again, but it's fine. I got through it. It was worth it. They put you in recovery after, and you immediately have like a cup of tea and biscuits, which is the best bit, because I forgot to mention, but you can't eat anything for like 24 hours minimum before your oscopy. So you're starving, and you have to like clear your body out with drinking all this horrible liquid, to like completely clear yourself out so they can see clearly inside, right? So you're miserable, you're starving, and you feel really fragile. But then they pop you in recovery after your oscopy, and they give you a cup of tea straight away, and that's quite nice. It's quite a British thing, though, isn't it? Like tea and biscuits as soon as you're out of your hospital thing. Um, so that's good. And then I just wait to hear back. They're going to review it and talk, and I wait to hear back. So it's like several weeks, right? Being unwell again. um, I can't remember if he put me back on steroids for a while just to like, so I wasn't really, really unwell. I can't really remember. But eventually they got back to me and I get a phone call off. I can't remember if it was off my main doctor or one of the nurses. I think it was off a specialist nurse. And she was like, okay, so they've had a discussion and they've spoken about the options and everything. And they want to try you on another biologic, which is similar to the first one you tried. And I was like, are you kidding me? Like, I've gone through this process. They can't help it. It's not, I mean, I'm still grateful. I'm grateful for the opportunity to try another biologic. Because we did, me and my kind of friends and family were a bit like, what, really? We're going to call it after trying like 2 or 3? Like, I know there's more. Anyway, I trusted my doctor, but they must have had a second opinion or something and think, well, the first one was very effective for a while, so we'll try similar to the first one you tried. So I'm like, okay. I was a bit annoyed, not like at anyone, but I was just a bit annoyed because I've gone through this whole like process of, coming to terms with this change and like being ready. Okay, I'm ready for surgery and being unwell for so long. And then it's like, oh no, actually, we're going to try you on something else. But at the same time, it was a bit bittersweet. I was pleased to a degree that I was able to try something else before surgery. Um, so that's where kind of we are now, which is they put me on another treatment just before Christmas. I think it was December, the start around the start. No, it was mid-December, and these things usually take quite a while to kick in anyway. So sometimes you don't know if it's working for a good couple of weeks. And this one I can administer at home, which is even better. I don't have to go and sit in a chair for like 2 hours, 4 hours, so like when I first started it. These are just like kind of injections that I put in myself, which I had to learn, but I'm quite good at it and it doesn't bother me. So I take one, and literally the next morning I feel better, and my symptoms are starting to ease, and I'm like, that's crazy. But I'm like, it's probably just like placebo or like just what I've eaten, and it's a coincidence. So like after like 3 days, on like the fourth day, I'm like as well as I'm actually better than I was when I was on that first treatment. Like I was like so my symptoms eased so much, and I felt normal. Honestly, it felt weird. It didn't feel like me because I've been so used to functioning a certain way, my body functioning a certain way. So when it functions how it's kind of supposed to, it kind of throws you off. But I was ecstatic. I was able to enjoy my Christmas, and that was really nice. Um, and yeah, I mean that kind of brings us up to now. Uh, it's funny because even though I'm on a treatment that works physically, things like stress and anxiety can still affect chronic disease and illness. It is so weird, especially when it's stomach related. It's weird how much your emotions can affect these things because my work was affected by my Crohn's disease. When I came back after Christmas, for whatever reason, I was quite anxious and stressed about work, and that was affecting my body directly. And even though I was on this treatment that was working, I was flaring up because of the anxiety and stress. So anyway, that affected my work. But after that whole situation had subsided, we're kind of where we are now in the new year, where I'm still on the treatment and it's starting to not work, which is frustrating. However, there's room to mess with the dosage because it's so early, and the frequency, kind of like the first one and whatnot. It's a little bit nerve wracking because if you do worry, and if history repeats itself, it's like, is it gonna happen again? Like, is it gonna work and then just stop working? Is it gonna work and then slowly trail off? But I don't know. You can't think like that. You've got to just try what you can try. And that's kind of a lot of what having a chronic illness is just trying what you can try to help it. Um, Obviously within reason. And so yeah, that's literally brings us up to like today, where I need to actually phone the nurses and be like, okay, it's not really working so well now. Can we look at changing the dosage or the frequency? Um, so yeah, I'm a bit worried about it. I really hope that I'm at a better place with this. further down the line. But I've just got to do what I can. Maybe I have had to have the surgery. Maybe there's been a new treatment that works. I don't know. But we'll see. We'll see very soon because I need to get it sorted soon. I've had a lot going on. So I've had other stuff to figure out before this. But it will be done soon. And hopefully it's better. It just makes me wonder if with these things, like if we'll ever find a cure. I know we think about that with many illnesses, kind of nasty ones. Like will we find a cure? It's kind of crazy to think that there are this many, especially with all the technology we have. Like there are this many horrible diseases that we just can't cure for some reason. They're just like insanely difficult to. I think it's because of how the body works. So I think that's why. I mean, I'm no expert at all. Like, don't listen to me. But this is just a representation of my brain right now. Is I think that it must be how complex our bodies are and how they fight against themselves. Like that. That's often like a big issue. Like with Crohn's, your body thinks it's like your body thinks that there's something bad in your gut, so it's like fighting it, and it's causing inflammation. And this is the same with some other illnesses. Is your body thinks there's something bad, so it like attacks itself, and for some reason that's really hard to treat. Very strange, but we move. We got to keep going, trying other things. And I'm sure I'll update on this how it goes. Actually, I'll do a direct update when I've spoken to them and sorted this out, because I think it would be good to actually track this as part of my kind of life journey if I stick to this, which I know I said in the last episode. I do hope I do. It's just hard. I don't know. It's hard to find enough to talk about. These subjects are all right because I can kind of talk about this all day because of how much it's impacted my life and still does and will continue to. Um, but yeah, I need to find other interesting things to talk about because otherwise you're just talking about me moan about my life, which I know that's kind of part of the premise of this, but I don't want it to just be that. So hopefully I'll have some other funny stories for you. So yeah. In other news, I am looking for a new job. I've been job searching for a while. I think I don't know, it's an interesting thing happening that is worth talking about. I'm applying to be a teaching assistant, which is something that I'm interested in. People have always told me that I should be a teacher, which I'm not sure what that means. I'm not sure what that says about me, but I think it's a good thing. I think people see patience in me for some reason. So yeah, I'm applying to be a teaching assistant, or I have applied, and I'm nearly there. And I should be doing it soon. Hopefully, I've applied for a couple of other things, but we'll see how that goes. And I'm not sure. I'm not sure how much detail I'll go into, but I'll update. You know, hopefully I'll have some stability in that field, and yeah, I'll let you know. The world of work is so strange because you really want to do something that you enjoy, but to be honest, most jobs I think people don't enjoy, and it's that balance, isn't it, of needing to live, need to earn a living, but also not wanting to hate any aspect of it. And there's a balance there because some jobs can be challenging, but worth it. You know, some of them can test you, but ultimately be worth it. But then other ones is like you can be really miserable in a job, and no amount of money makes that worth it. So it really is striking that balance. I think it's different for everyone because some people, I respect people who can do whatever for a job, and if it's worth the money for them, that's great, right? But I think other people, it's like it's more difficult to settle for something that you don't enjoy. I think this comes with like overthinking, but I'm terrified of like living all of or a massive portion of my life doing something that I really, really didn't enjoy and like didn't get anything out of just for money or like just to buy a house or whatever. I mean, those things are important, but yeah, that terrifies me. The concept of like wasted time or a wasted life. I think I mean, this is kind of deep now, but it ties into things like, yeah, I feel like I'd rather spend my time. It's that, isn't it? It's about your time. What's your time worth? I'd rather spend my time doing something I kind of enjoy, and not make mega bucks than like spend time doing something that actively makes me feel rubbish and just like that's not worth it at the end of the day, you know? Anyway, different for everyone. But at the same time, I think a lot of us just want to, I don't know, sit and look after a garden or a farm or something, and that's enough. A simple life. I just want to sit and paint or something like that, in a house. Actually, I just want to own a house. Now, I've put myself in a bit of a box with this music segment idea because though I want the songs to have carry some sort of meaning to the episode, it's hard to find something that seems suitable. It's not too on the nose or like cringe, but you want it, I don't know. It's good if it ties in, isn't it? Um, so I've been thinking about this one. I didn't plan this in advance, but just based off what I said earlier, I think I am gonna have to go with the Pearl Jam song because I do like Pearl Jam. I like a bit of that. So yeah, I'm gonna go for a Pearl Jam song, and I've got one in mind. There's a couple of good ones to choose from, but I'm gonna go with Alive. I think it's a good one. It is a bit on the nose, and I don't want to make it too dramatic, but it's a good message. Persevering and keeping going. So just to briefly explain again, if you're on Spotify, the song will play automatically when I shut up. But if you're listening on YouTube or anywhere else, there should be a link in the description, which I've added to the song, so you can either get it open ready or just click it after I've finished talking. So yeah, Pearl Jam Alive. That's going to be the one this week. I need to think of some other topics to cover if I'm going to do this weekly. I'm a bit late. I mean, this one's probably going to go out a day or two late, which is annoying. It's my fault. I should have done it earlier in the week, but I haven't found an opportunity. Nice quiet house, no distractions, and I've just had other important stuff to do. So yeah, I don't know if anyone has any suggestions, feel free. But I think I do need to draw things from my own life, so maybe I just need to get off my ass and sort it out. But yeah, I'll be back with another one hopefully, and another song for you as well. So I hope you enjoyed this little snapshot into my current life in 2023, and kind of my journey of my illness. It's a bit, it's not the most cheerful one, but I hope it hasn't been too down, and hopefully a relaxing listen. That's the main thing, and hopefully a bit of foresight for myself to look back on and see, how I was feeling. Hopefully things are better now. That's the that's what I'm hoping. So here we go. Pearl Jam Alive. I'll speak to you next time.